everyone, welcome back to Katie's Favorite Recipes. Today I've got 3 great one-pot meals that I think you all are going to love. The first one is an Italian smoked sausage and pasta recipe. The second one is chicken Parmesan pasta. And the last one is chicken teriyaki noodles. These are all super easy and they are delicious, so I think you all are going to love them. So let's go ahead and get started with the Italian smoked sausage pasta now. First off, we're starting with our Italian smoked sausage pasta recipe, and I'm going to start off by chopping an onion. And I'm using my fine blade on this. I'm only doing half the onion. And after I finish that, I am going to take 2 pounds of this smoked sausage I have here, and I'm just going to chop that up into coins. With all of my recipes, the goal is to stay budget friendly, and if you're looking for a great budget friendly channel, you can also check out Sensible Living with Money Mom. I'll link her channel in the description below, but she talks about budgeting, saving money, weight loss, motivational tips, just all kinds of great helpful things. So make sure to go check her out. Now I've heated up some butter and I'm going to saute about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic in my pan. Now that that's been sauteing and it's gotten fragrant, next I'm going to add in my finely diced onion to this. We are just going to cook this and give it a little jump start to let the onions start cooking. Next, we're going to go ahead and add in our smoked sausage, and we are going to let this get a good char on it. If you don't want to do that and you just want to throw this all in, you can do that and then wait until the broth gets hot and then add the pasta and forget about cooking the onion and the smoked sausage all first, but I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning over top of this, and I'm going to stir it up and just let this get a good char to it. But if you're running low on time or you just simply don't want to mess with it, you do not have to char it like I said. But I'm also going to go over this with some black pepper as well, and that's just a taste and that's optional. So if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Like I've said with all my videos, if you don't like any of these seasonings or ingredients, feel free to substitute them out and just make this your own. And just enjoy this, because that's the beauty of cooking in your own kitchen, is just making stuff how you like it. So now we're going to go ahead and add in our 4 cups of beef broth. We are also going to do 1 cup of milk in this, and we're just going to stir that up and let that reach a simmering boil. Just make sure that it's not so hot that it causes your milk to scorch and burn at the bottom. But then after we do that, we're going to go ahead and add in our penne pasta once it starts boiling and getting really good and hot. We do want to keep stirring this throughout, off and on, to make sure that the noodles are not just sticking at the bottom and burning. Because if you let this start sticking and burning at the bottom and then you go to stir it, it's going to cause those noodles to rip in half and to break into little pieces, and this is just going to turn to mush. So just make sure that you uncover it and stir it really good a couple times. That way you won't really have any issue with it sticking and burning during the cooking process, and you won't really have to worry about that. Once your noodles have fully cooked through and they are as tender as you want them, you can taste test them to be for sure that they're done all the way if you want. Just be careful because it'll be hot. But you can go ahead and add your cheese in, and you can use whatever kind of cheese you want. I'm using the Kraft Signature Cheddar blend, and this was so good. It was creamy, it melted down really nicely. But if you want to use just mozzarella, or you could do sharp shredded cheddar cheese, or just any kind of cheese you can think of. So Velveeta cheese might be good in this. But just go ahead and add whatever you want, and that's it. I topped mine with red pepper flakes, and I hope you all enjoy. Next, we're going to be doing the chicken Parmesan pasta recipe. This was delicious. So I'm going to use half an onion, and I'm going to finely dice that up with my chopper. Next, I'm going to chop up about 1.5 pounds of chicken breast tenderloins. And then once we do that, we're going to start cooking this in the skillet and season it to taste. If you wanted to use any other kind of chicken, you could do that, but I'm using breast tenderloins. So I've got my olive oil, and I just put that in my pan, and I'm just going to do 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. If you don't like minced garlic, you don't have to use it at all. This recipe does not require it. It's just extra flavor. A lot of people has minced garlic or garlic powder in their homes, so I like it in a lot of recipes, but I don't use it all the time, every time. So if you don't like it, just don't even worry about using it. But next, we're going to start cooking and seasoning up our chicken. So I'm going to do some salt and pepper, and that is just going to be to taste. And then if you can think of any other seasons that you want to use, do that. But I'm going to be using about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning on my chicken as well. and I'm just going to sprinkle that on there, and we're going to stir everything up and let these seasonings coat all over the chicken. If you wanted to do this in a separate bowl and coat it with olive oil, you can do that, but I'm just going to do it right in the pan. Once my chicken gets good and coated and mixed up with the seasonings, I'm going to go ahead and add in my diced onion and let that give my chicken some flavor. And then I'm going to start cooking that until my chicken is all the way cooked through. Once my chicken is fully cooked, I'm going to take a jar of marinara pasta sauce. This is 23 ounces. It doesn't matter what brand you're using. I'm just using a jar of the Great Value brand. And I'm going to dump that whole jar in there. And then I'm going to fill that same 23 ounce jar up with water all the way to the top, and I'm going to pour that into my pan as well. And I'm just going to go over this with some extra Italian seasoning. I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to let my sauce mixture come to a boil. And once it starts doing that, that's when I'm going to add in my penne pasta. And I'm just going to do the whole box with that. If you wanted to take your chicken out when it was fully done, you could do that to make sure that it don't get a little bit tough or overcooked, but I just left mine in. So now that I've got my penne pasta poured in, I'm going to stir it up, and I'm just going to let this cook. I'm going to cover it, but I am going to check it periodically. You don't want to let this set and stick and burn, because if you don't keep it stirred, the noodles become kind of sticky and starchy, and they're going to stick to the bottom and just burn and then turn to mush whenever you try to stir them. So just make sure that you stir it every so often and then cover it back up and let it finish cooking. You can taste the noodles to see if they're done. Once it's finished and cooked through, I actually got a second jar of this marinara sauce in case I felt like that this come out dry and I needed it. And I decided that I did want a little bit more sauce, so I used about a fourth of this jar, and then I'm just going to save the rest for another recipe. But now I'm going to go in with my cheeses. So I'm going to do 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. And then next I'm also going to do a half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to pour that over top of this, stir it up, cover it, and let it melt. And that's it. This recipe is super simple and it's ready to eat in no time. And you can serve it with some garlic bread or just by itself. Lastly, we're doing the chicken teriyaki noodle recipe. This is really easy to make and it was delicious. So I'm going to start off with my 1.5 pounds of cut up chicken. I just diced it and I used chicken breast tenderloins. You can use whatever kind of chicken, or you can substitute this out and use any other meat you can think of. So I've got a couple tablespoons of olive oil here, and I have put my chicken in it, and I'm just going to season this up the way I like it. So I'm doing salt, pepper, onion powder, and I'm just seasoning that to taste. If you can think of any other kind, feel free to use that. I'm going to stir my chicken up and let all of those good seasonings get mixed all over my chicken. If you want to do this in a separate bowl, you can do that, but I like to do it in the pan. And then this is optional as well, but I want to go over some of my chicken with some soy sauce just to give it a little extra flavor. You don't have to do that. It's just optional to give the chicken just some more flavor. We're going to use more soy sauce here in just a minute. But once my chicken is fully cooked, I'm going to remove it from the pan, and then I'm going to start working on my sauce mixture. So I'm going to do 2/3 cup of soy sauce, and then I'm going to do a half a cup of brown sugar. After I do that and get that poured in there, then next I'm going to move on and I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. And then I'm going to do a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. If you didn't want to do garlic powder, you could do the minced garlic that you can get in the jar, or you could also get your own garlic cloves and mince those, however you want to do that. But for this recipe today, I'm just going to do garlic powder. And then once I get that put in there, I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to whisk this up until it's smooth. Once that's smooth and whisked up, next I'm going to add it back into the pan, and then I have a head of broccoli here that I have cut down. If you want to use carrots, you can use peas, you can use any kind of vegetable you can think of. I was actually going to use a different kind, but they were out of it, so they substituted me for a head of broccoli. You could do shredded cabbage, whatever you want. And then next we're going to add 3.5 cups of water. We're going to let the sauce mixture come to a simmering boil, and then we are going to start adding in our spaghetti. I've got 1 16-ounce box here, and I'm actually going to break these in half. If you don't want to do that, you do not have to, but I feel like that it will make it easier to eat. The noodles won't be so long, and it'll cook better in my pan. Once I finish breaking up my spaghetti noodles into halves, I am going to dump those into the pan. And we want to stir that up every so often, just like we have with the rest of these. So cover it, let it cook for a few minutes, and then just come back and stir it. And check on it to make sure that it's not sticking and burning. Now that it's almost fully cooked and it's just got a couple minutes left to finish up getting fully tender on the noodles, I am actually going to go ahead and add in my chicken. I've had it out this whole time, that way it wouldn't get too tough or overcooked. So now I'm going to add it back in, and it's going to heat back up where it's been setting and cooling off. Once your chicken's added back in and it's fully heated up and your noodles are finished cooking all the way through, this is finished and it's ready to serve. I hope you all enjoy these really easy weeknight meals. Thanks again for watching.